Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be checking out Imperial Assassin's Origins and Vindicare Snipers Warhammer 40k Lore Size History by Luetin09. Yes guys, now this was recommended to me by our Prefect Andrew, so big thank you to you Andrew for this week's recommendation. As always, do appreciate that a lot, man. And yeah, also have to say, been a while since we checked out a Luetin video on the channel, so excited to check him out and also excited to learn more also about the Vindicares, right? We haven't really learned a whole lot about the Assassinatorium. More the videos we've checked out about them have kind of been like broader faction overviews, sub-faction overviews, and not really on any specific creed, I guess you could say, right? So Vindicare is what I do know about them. Obviously snipers, so they're obviously lone infiltrators deployed largely on their own. They specialize in getting to a position, waiting there for literally however long they need, apparently, and taking one precise shot, ending the target's life. They're extremely effective at what they do. While they're not the most I guess flashy, I guess you could say, of the different assassin branches from what I know, you know, they're definitely effective tools, definitely effective killing machines, that's for sure. You know, many a target completely unsuspecting, and then a sniper bullet hits them from fucking couple kilometers away, you know what I'm saying? So it's like pretty impressive, I have to say, pretty impressive. I'm interested to learn more about them, interested to actually check out a full lore video on them, and I have to say too, it'd be interesting to check out some more Assassin's Creeds later on too. So of course, if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments. And yeah, without any further delay, I say we get right into this one. Let's obviously make sure we leave a like here. We've obviously been subbed up to Luetin for a while. Captions on, quality is 1080p, and of course, if you guys enjoyed this reaction, hit that like button, subscribe for more reactions, and of course, leave your recommendations down in the comments below. I do appreciate that a lot, guys. Join the Discord, of course, if you're not in it. And yeah, big thank you to all of our members, as always. Big thank you to Andrew for this recommendation. Without any further delay, guys, 3, 2, 1, let's get it. Siege Studios. Ooh, and I know this is an older video too, 5 years ago, I think. The grim darkness of the far future. There is only war. Sow the seeds of damnation, and I shall reap the souls of the tainted. Modus, who was that? Modus Exitus? Okay, shit. That's a name. Assassins of the Imperium. These original artworks look sick, wow. Let me just do that a little bit.
Bleak horrors which pockmark the empire of humanity as it exists in the 41st millennium lie individuals with ambitions so dangerous, guilt so all-consuming, or ignorance so diabolical that they must be exterminated as quickly and as gruesomely as possible. I'll be looking across several episodes at individual elements of the Officio Assassinorum, their individual disciplines, and in one likely summarizing those we know little to anything about. As should be clear to all by now, managing the Galactic Imperium is not something that is easily handled both logistically and in other ways, like shifting ideological views and those with grandiose plans for self-enrichment or power grabs. For the Imperium,
arguably it's virtually impossible.
Those trusted in positions of absolute authority to quite literally dictate the order of things. This is bolstered by the most powerful and loyal of its military forces and factions. At a blunt face value, what this means is a powerful combination of bodies and hardware, titanic war machines, genetic superhuman warriors, and starships that are capable of literally ending the lives of entire planets. But I'm sure to the sadness of some of you guys
know me, I love me a mech, man.
Exterminatus is not the only
I think those were warhounds there.
Loyalty. There are still more subtle ways to contain those problematic individuals of humanity, crazed governors, cells of dissidents and corrupted cults, those who simply have the ego and audacity, who believe they're able to defy the will of terror and live. Yes, there is the Inquisition, but when you need less of a club and more of a scalpel, there exists the Officio Assassinorum. Indeed, in many ways, the assassins of the Imperium are what might be termed diplomacy in the 41st.
I just want to say real quick, look how fucking scary these motherfuckers are. You know what I'm saying? Like, look how fucking terrifying these are. Even the sniper, right? Even the Vindicare, right? Like, if you were to see that, you'd get fucked up, right? Now, obviously, I don't even want to get into the other ones, right? It's not the focus of the video, but holy shit, man. Like that's fucking terrifying. You do not want to see those red eyes looking back. I guess only one of them's got green, but the rest, that red, man, that is fucking scary. Holy shit.
Within the darkness of the galaxy of 40K.
I like how they each look unique too.
Sitting around a table discussing the ins and outs of who's right and who's wrong. If you're assigned a position of power, you will be expected to fall firmly within the boundaries laid out by those in the higher bureaucracy, because failure to do so could well mean one day a Vindicare assassin placing a precision round through the base of your skull, leaving your body dead before your brain were even able to process this fact.
Literally.
The assassin's battleground is that of the misguided and the ambitious, the heretic, the fool, and those foul individuals perverted by diabolical corruptions. All must be exterminated in the eyes of the Imperium, lest their diseased minds and actions spread further throughout the Emperor's glorious domain.
Damn. That was a line, dude. Holy shit. Origins, okay.
The Order of Imperial Assassins is known as the Officio Assassinorum, and dates back to the period around the dawn of the Emperor's Great Crusade upon Mount Vengeance, where the Emperor would infamously give a speech to his followers declaring that no world shall be beyond my rule, no enemy shall be beyond my wrath. Now, I will not be getting sidetracked
Was that true?
By the Emperor and his agenda today, but of course this is a very famous line, and you should interpret his words and later actions as you will. But here is where the first members of the Officio Assassinorum made their oath and pact against the enemies of the Emperor and mankind, to hunt them down mercilessly using their refined skills of stealth and subterfuge. The group of the Officio Assassinorum had been formed with fragile rules that were reliant upon anonymity and secrecy. It could only exist as long as its strict rules which bound its existence were followed by all of its members. In this earliest of times, there were no assassin temples. They were simply known as clades. Each clade leader was known as a Director Primus, and they answered to the Master of Assassins, who, unbeknownst to them, beyond being a High Lord of Terror, was of course Malcador the Sigillite. Constantine Valdor of the Custodes was also aware of the goings-on within the Assassinorum at this time, and this enclave of assassins would all meet within the Imperial Palace on Terra. The Imperial Palace, it should be noted, is far beyond the scale of what we might imagine today as being a city palace. It was the most grandiose cityscape at the heart of all humanity, and it stretched from horizon to horizon. It is said to have been of a size that may have equaled an entire continent, and here, somewhere lost within the darkened corners of the metropolis, is where the original Officio Assassinorum would meet, in a location known as the Shrouds. Here they were entirely locked away in a vault that should not have existed and could not be monitored by any means from the outside. For those who were able to enter the chamber, to all intents and purposes, from that moment until they made their exit, they ceased to exist. For decades they served the Emperor and the Master of Assassins, hunting down those who would bring ruination to the Emperor's plans, striking down those who sought to undermine his glorious vision for mankind. They sought no praise, no glory, no word of appreciation from the Emperor himself. They felt themselves unworthy of such adulation and moved silently in the wake of the Great Crusade. They made sure that those worlds newly brought into the Imperium kept their word and that their treaties were abided by. Yet even the Clades Primus were unable to escape the inevitable. Death would stalk them eternally, just as it did their designated targets, and so they came to realize that they must pass on their skills to create a legacy of Imperial assassins. In doing so, they revealed themselves to the Emperor, and he was greatly pleased with their accomplishments. Temples to each clade were then constructed upon Terra, and as within all branches of the Imperium's military forces, the most skillful, the most deadly youths were sought for initiation into the Officio Assassinorum.
It's kind of crazy to me. I didn't actually realize there that the Emperor had no, I guess, knowledge of them, right? Like, I guess Malcador really just like directly handled that shit, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, then they revealed themselves to the Emperor, and he's actually, you know what, good work. You know, he wasn't even upset about it. I guess that just goes to show, though, how much he really trusted Malcador, like how much of a fucking G Malcador was, you know? Like, you know what, if Malcador's doing it, there's a good reason for it. You know what I mean? Like, that's sick. That's sick.
For the most deadly youths were sought for initiation into the Officio Assassinorum.
But I had no idea.
These laid ensured that even some 10,000 years later, the Emperor's most deadly followers reach out to enact his wrath upon those who might seek to deny him. When a heresy fell upon the burgeoning Imperium, they were tasked with achieving the unachievable, and were set to assassinate the arch-traitor Horus Lupercal, the War Master. They failed.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
Through their actions were established the temple disciplines of the Officio Assassinorum as we know them to this day. For a significant period...
To be fair, though, to them, they failed, but Horus, especially at this period in time, dude, bold target, very powerful target, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna put that one past them, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all good, you know, it's all good. You guys can have that one, you know what I mean?
Assassinorum as we know them to this day. For a significant period after the Horus heresy, the Imperium still lay in ruin, quite literally in chaos, as many worlds were still tearing themselves apart. Scandal would later surround the Assassinorum in mid-M32 when an event known as the Beheading would take place. The mutually destructive decisions being made by the then High Lords of Terror took a horrific path when they were slain by assassins by the orders of Draken Vangorich, who was serving Grand Master of the Assassinorum. An Hastati's retribution force drawn from Halo Brethren, Imperial Fists and Sable Swords tracks down Vangorich to an Assassinorum temple. The Space Marine commander is slain as soon as the strike force lands, but the Marines engage regardless. A true nightmare ensues as upon entering the temple the Hastatis are assaulted by around 100 Eversor assassins. When the slaughter was over, only a single badly wounded Space Marine survives the horror, but by some miracle is able to kill the Grand Master, purging him with the Emperor's wrath. There's a lot of Emperor's wrath going on today. The result of all this is that the Imperium...
So I'm sure that was... damn. Okay, so like, was he corrupted? Did he think it was done for a good reason? Executing the High Lords of Terra, man? That's quite the fucking ploy here. So, I mean, maybe, I'm sure Luetin here will explain it, but if not, like, somebody let me know. Like, he must have had some shit going on with him, right? Like, what kind of fucking Zinch corruption were you spitting, man? Like, come on. Like, straight up, somebody let me know about that if he doesn't say here.
Wrath. It's a lot of Emperor's wrath.
Or what was his motivation?
The result of all this is that the Imperium descends into anarchy for the next century as a destructive power struggle ensued over who should rule the Imperium. Finally, Agnathio, then chapter master...
Oh, is that why? Because he didn't think they had the right to?
50 leaders from the other chapters of Space Marines and arrives upon Terra. Such a show of power and faith puts an end to the squabbling for the contentious seats of the High Lords of Terror that has consumed the differing factions since the beheading, and it is here that in a locked council with the mightiest of mankind's warriors, including very likely, of course, the Custodes, this destructive period is quickly resolved. None can know just exactly how the decisions were made, but
this took place over a century?
They sat again 12 High Lords of Terror. Should any of the bureaucrats, nobles or warmongers who had sought ultimate power for themselves felt the need to dissent, there were none who dared to voice it. But then came the Astropath Wars and the Firestorm. The details of which are barely documented, but out of all of
I'm learning a lot of new shit here, the Astropath Wars.
Several millennia later in M36, the Ministorum as it was sought to exert its power over the Imperium. All entered into the Age of Apostasy. The Officio Assassinorum was no exception, and fractures in its hierarchy were shown. Now this period is very complex and contains a great many different threads, which if I went off on would lead to an extremely long video. But one figure is closely associated with this period, that being Goj Vandire. And it is known that he had a reputation for abusing the power of the assassins for his own ends. Indeed, not only...
I'm gonna say it right now, yeah, like after the Emperor dies, after Malkador dies, right? The head of the assassins has no official recognized body as its leadership, right? There wasn't really, I don't think, a contingency plan really put in place for that. The High Lords, I guess, in the Emperor's name, right? But like, they ain't the Emperor and they ain't Malkador, right? And whoever's in charge of the Assassinatorium is kind of like, well, he's the leader of all of them, right? And if he doesn't agree, he doesn't have to, I guess, theoretically answer to any of them. So you can really see like how this role could, I guess, get corrupted pretty easily and could work arguably against the Imperium at large. And we're still obviously early in the video here. We're not obviously at M41 standards or by M41 yet, but yeah, just crazy to me. Like, holy shit. Like, yeah, this seems like a very dangerous position to be in charge of, man. Like in terms of like the power, I guess, that you gain.
For abusing the power of the assassins for his own ends. Indeed, not only was he said to have gained his position by the use of assassins, but also that any who would later speak out against him were regularly found to then either disappear or found dead in very gruesome or mysterious circumstances.
Insane.
As a result, soon there would be few who would speak against him. Although Vandire resisted the dominance within the ecclesiarchy at this time, he would eventually take control of it, wielding both the power of the administratum and the ecclesiarchy, and it would soon become fairly evident that Vandire was an insane sociopath and was essentially power mad.
Yeah, was he?
Presented itself to be twisted, he would manipulate it to support his arguments. A fleeing ship of high-ranking ecclesiarchy being lost in the warp, for example, was used by Vandire to bolster his claims that he had the Emperor on his side. And this insanity of Vandire gave rise to what were known then as the Daughters of the Emperor, an all-female cult dedicated to the worship of the Emperor. They served as Vandire's personal army, and you may well imagine who this cult would later transform into as a militant wing of the ecclesiarchy.
Damn, dude.
But what, of course, of the assassins?
That's crazy.
Vandire's bloodthirsty purging of the Imperium.
It's interesting learning the origins of all these factions.
The Officio Assassinorum came well within the scope, if you care for the pun, of Vandire's paranoia. This was likely well justified, as the assassins had generally been designed to prevent just such kind of maniacs from taking control. One might wonder why this took so long for them to get a handle on, given that Vandire had been already well known as a disruptive and problematic individual. The Grand Master of the Assassins would later speak to this in a letter to the Inquisition, where he took the blame for the failings within the Officio Assassinorum and lamented his foolishness in thinking that he could alone dig out the seeds of corruption and stamp them out. Vandire had established something of a following within the Assassinorum, and just as he had in many factions and organisations across the Imperium, he achieved this largely through both bribery, blackmail, or just simply pure corruption.
So this guy's just an utter cockroach, essentially, yeah.
Jarek, who had felt cheated by the then standing Grand Master. Using the shape-shifting powers made possible by the drug polymorphine that the Calidus Temple are well known for, Jarek was able to corrupt other temples within the Assassinorum that would ultimately lead to an insurrection. When the sudden death of Vandire came at the hands of his former guardians, the Daughters, it soon became clear to Jarek that as many sections of the Administratum were being purged of any association with Vandire, the same would very likely soon be true for the Officio Assassinorum, who were entirely unforgiving of misjudgment and failures even if they were unwitting. And so Jarek would assassinate the Grand Master and take his place. However, one does not simply become Grand Master of the Officio Assassinorum without some slight understanding of the
one does not simply.
And so the Grand Master was in fact prepared for just such an action against him. He had well foreseen that Jarek would make these conclusions about the purging taking place, and that it would lead Jarek to attempt to seize control, and so the Grand Master had in fact switched himself with an identical double. Still very much alive, the Grand Master then gathered loyal assassins and assaulted the temples on terror. Jarek may have been occupying the position of Grand Master through the use of polymorphine, but only the true Grand Master held the codes to unleash the terrifying Eversor assassins, as well as the identities of all assassins, and access to some of the most devastating weaponry in the Imperium. The subsequent battle...
That's interesting. So the Eversors are literally like the fucking nuke codes, which makes complete sense. That makes complete fucking sense. Yeah. Yeah, they're basically like the Terminators, like the fucking T-800s of the Assassins cult here, I guess, right? Okay, so does that mean that only Grand Masters can actually deploy them on ops? Is that what that means? Or I guess at this time, is that what that means? Eventually, maybe not, but I guess we'll find out here.
Assassins, and access to some of the most devastating weaponry in the Imperium. The subsequent battle was to bring the Officio Assassinorum to its knees. The Grand Master saw that it must be entirely broken before the eyes of the Imperium, for if it could so easily be corrupted, then it was no longer fit for purpose, and was more of a threat than a safeguard for the Imperium.
It's literally easily corruptible.
Corridors hunting the renegades. Vindicare snipers lay in vents and perched atop Imperial masonry, picking off the traitors with invisible impunity. Suspected strongholds and hideouts were destroyed with demolitions so powerful, entire sections of the Imperial Palace were collapsed. The fighting became so furious and bloodthirsty that it eventually spilled out into the Imperial Palace itself. An unseemly spectacle, to be sure. The ancient arsenal of forbidden...
Are the custodies... What are the custodies doing at this time? Are they just, like, watching? They're just like, we're on the fucking sidelines. This is an independent war at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Because, again, but I just can't assume that they would... Maybe they don't know of it, but if it's spilling out into the open, like, holy shit. What, like, what are they doing?
An unseemly spectacle, to be sure. The ancient arsenal of forbidden and Xenos weaponry was opened up, and gene-sympathetic nerve gases polluted the corridors of the Imperial Palace, while neutronic warheads destroyed whole wings of the ancient structures.
What the fuck?
The assassins, whether they knew it or not, were being steadily eliminated, until Jarek and the Grand Master faced the final confrontation. Jarek felt confident, perhaps overconfident, in his attempt to murder the Grand Master, wielding such wargear as a neural shredder, which is just as it sounds, and a terrible Xenos weapon in what is known within the Kaladas Temple as the Catan Phase Sword. This is made of a material known only to the Necron, and is able to bypass all shields given its nature of phasing in and out of
Holy shit,
space.
That is an artifact of war, dude.
One another, the Grand Master had readied a trap. A haywire grenade exploded
Necron weaponry.
And Jarek saw in horror his tools of assassination were now neutralized, and tearing an Exitus pistol from the wall, the Grand Master dropped the traitor with two fast shots, the first in the head and the second in the chest. The rounds were made to dissolve, and the Master replaced the pistol with fresh unfired ammunition, placing it back on the wall. When all was said and done, the true Grand Master had rid the Imperium and Officio Assassinorum of Jarek, but would then vanish into a self-imposed exile. What became of him past this point, or if he could still be even alive somewhere, is entirely unknown. On Terra, the body of the Grand Master's double had been found, and a package delivered to the Inquisition containing the signet ring of the Grand Master of the Assassins, or so it appeared, as well as a note explaining the situation. The Inquisitors noted that the true Grand Master's ring should contain a data crystal, and if it were true, then that on the body would be found in fact with a replica of the Grand Master's ring. This was confirmed to be accurate, and so led them to conclude that this was in fact not the true Grand Master's body. The Inquisition set out to further explore this situation. The data crystal contained a code to an administratum vault, but locating it to begin with was a problem in and of itself. The Administratum has vast realms of vaults on Terra,
fucking
and finding
everywhere.
It could in fact take years.
Wow,
so in order
this
to
is just
find
on
a specific
Terra?
vault, the Imperium will use archive servitors. These are linked to a memory unit which holds locations of the majority of Imperial vaults. They input 3 servitors with the code.
Go sort through all the paperwork.
One was able to locate the vault itself, and this still took 2 weeks for it to accomplish. It had travelled some 50 kilometers within what are loosely the United Planetary Spanning Hives on Terra. Within this, they found yet another body of a Grand Master. He was suspended in stasis, yet this proved to be another false Grand Master. More importantly was a highly detailed document revealing to the Inquisition the full account of the highly disturbing and widespread corruption within the Officio Assassinorum written by the Grand Master, with words stating that his final hope was that now having absolved himself in front of the Emperor, only he should now judge whether he deserved everlasting peace. In the aftermath of the carnage, the Inquisition was significantly troubled by these events and revelations.
Yeah, no shit.
It would create the Ordo Sicarius, at the behest of Inquisitor Jaeger, and from the ending of the War of Vindication, the Ordo Sicarius has since monitored and overseen the Officio to theoretically ensure that such another terrible war can never take place again. One thing was sure though, the Inquisition saw that the truth of what had occurred during the Wars of Vindication were sealed for all time. They made it known that the Grand Master had been slain, and that the High Lords made sure they would retain control of the Officio Assassinorum, and that from here on, only the traitor heretic and corrupted need ever fear the Imperial Assassin.
Yeah, so they basically just attempted, it's all good, don't worry about it, and they buried that shit. Probably, if they found it 50 kilometers deep, they probably buried it 100 kilometers deep. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that shit was going to the bottom of the pile right away. We're never talking about this again, ever. No one can know. The end.
Only the traitor heretic and corrupted.
God, I love the Imperium.
The Imperial Assassin. This all sounds very well and good on the face of it, but a devil's advocate might argue that it were questionable whether placing an Order of the Inquisition in charge of Imperial assassins was a particularly wise move, given their shifting and sometimes troubling ideology. But I'm sure that could never be a problem.
Yeah, they're no more corrupt.
It'll be fine. It will all be fine.
Uh-huh. Definitely. Vindicares, okay.
For 8 days he had lain absolutely still and undetected, tensing and releasing each muscle in turn to keep himself ready for action. So subtle were his movements that not a single leaf stirred, and the red-feathered birds nesting above continued to feed their young, undisturbed. Exhaling slowly, he released his conscious mind, using his well-honed instincts to sense the armoured tower in the distance, where his prey still hid. The self-declared prophet Elijah would have to speak to his people
Oh no,
soon,
Prophet Elijah.
and when he did, the Vindicare would be ready.
You don't want to be calling yourself no prophet, bro.
Sensors picked up the swish of thick curtains in the tower. Far away on the tower's balcony, Elijah stood with arms outstretched to welcome the morning sun. As he watched through the sight of his long rifle, the assassin carefully loaded his specialized ammunition. Seconds later, a flash of crackling blue energy engulfed the prophet as his displacer field overloaded. For a moment, the prophet stood, stunned. He was alive. Then the second bullet hit. It punched through the shining dome of his bald head and ended his heresy in but a split second.
Damn.
Each specific assassin temple focuses in on a specific discipline in the art of elimination. The Vindicare temple assassins are specialists in long-range marksmanship, cold, calculating killers that eliminate their targets with contemptuous ease. Their aim is to bring inglorious death to the enemies of the Emperor with a sniper's bullet, and focus generally on vengeance and revenge killings. Their
Holy
focus
shit.
is not on the suffering of their victims or the extraction of intelligence or creating a spectacle with collateral damage. The Vindicare will focus on unfeeling destruction. It is said that a Vindicare can pick out a target's jugular artery, heart, or even the specifics of the brain from extreme range. No matter the complexity of the environment, Vindicares will regularly need to pick a shot through the ruins and smokestacks of an underhive sprawl. To complement their superhuman accuracy, the Vindicare temple emphasizes stealth.
Got like
and
built-in
evasion
thermals,
techniques.
dude.
One of the temple's maxims is that a clean kill should only be made from the most effective firing position. It is not uncommon for a Vindicare assassin to occupy a given location for solar weeks if necessary, potentially even longer, waiting for a target to finally reveal themselves. The skills employed by the Vindicare Assassin's Temple will most often be used to put down those who might use social disorder and mob rule to shield themselves from heavy interjections by Arbites, although they obviously could, if necessary, deploy battalions of planetary guardsmen to assist if, say, the head of the snake is perhaps someone displaying the traits of a rousing orator instead of crushing the disorder with a visible force. An untraceable assassin's singular shot may well be interpreted by the ignorant pleb masses as something more akin to a divine intervention, especially if they're struck by a hellfire round, which will cause their body to be near enough instantaneously dissolved away from the inside out at horrific speed. For those watching as their
they won't even know what the fuck happened.
Cause dissolves into a shambling, shrieking mess before their very eyes,
Holy
panic
shit.
and fear will spread just as quickly, and it's unlikely few would have the stomach to stir up trouble again after witnessing their leader disintegrate into a twitching sludge of flesh and sinew. It must be said, though, that seeing their false messiah
That's horrific, dude.
as a high-velocity round pops it like a ripened melon, it's likely equally effective. Now, as I...
Yeah, you can obviously put down dissent on the mass scale, but sometimes, yeah, it's true, just taking out the one leader in a horrific way, precision-wise, and then everyone else knows there that they potentially could have gotten taken out too. You know what I mean? That fucks with your head deeply, right? I could see that. So yeah, no, it's can be just as effective given the situation, given the context. Yeah, it's you know, snipers are a thing nowadays, right? It's almost the same reason, you know, arguably. It's effective, it works.
Like a ripened melon, it's likely equally effective.
Not quite for this purpose, of course,
so
but
often people noting, if the Imperium is so terrible, why don't people stand up and fight back? This is what humanity has done forever.
You see officers getting popped along the trenches, that's demoralizing.
As to why that is near enough impossible. One of which being that the very idea of being a rebellious figure of authority in the Imperium is a complete non-starter. Revolutionary leaders who would dare speak against the Imperium fear and know that to do so risks likely their life in a very short period of time and the lives of their comrades in very short order as well. You may think that perhaps they would become martyrs to a cause. This is possible, but in actuality likely not, because Imperial assassins have meticulously planned out their means of assassination to likely disillusion their followers. There can be little more of a disillusioning sight than their charismatic leader being eliminated by a faceless, emotionless servant of the Emperor, as if his hand had reached down and crushed the audacity of their willpower. They may attempt to rise up again, of course, and the assassins of the Imperium will be ready to put them down again, except that this time it may not be a clean, cool kill from a Vindicare sniper. It may be the garroting, disemboweling psychopathic assassins of the Eversor Temple. And after an encounter with an Eversor assassin, it is unlikely that you would see
anyone will be alive
again.
Yeah.
To say, if there were even anyone who lived to tell of it.
Literally.
We will return to the joyous Eversor next time. By extreme contrast, Vindicare assassins will, as they lie in wait of their victims, in fact meditate on the immortal glory of the Emperor, as, well, we all should. These elite hunters can
I guess so, that's
down their
true.
metabolism into an almost hibernatory state. Their heart will beat perhaps only once per minute, and it's only through subliminal triggers that will enable the Vindicare to become roused instantly into a totally focused state, the instant a target shows themselves.
That makes sense. I was actually like wondering, like, how do they, like, I guess, sit in one place for so long, for weeks, months if need be, right? Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So they have like a fucking hibernation mode straight up where they just they go low power, you know what I mean? But they're still, I guess, very conscious in a sense. Like they're externally conscious, but their body is slowed, I guess you could say. Their metabolism slows probably pretty heavily. That's interesting. That's actually really interesting.
Instantly into a totally focused
cool way to
state.
explain it,
the
actually.
Instant a target shows themselves. They will lie in a near invisible state, waiting in complete silence, as motionless as a stone, before they're triggered into an ultra-heightened state of focus, ready to instantly strike with absolute, exacting precision and lightning reflexes. Vindicare are in fact more commonly in demand across the Imperial forces, as they are quite practical for a variety of uses, and are far more stable and less terrifying than the Eversor or Calexis assassins. Vindicare can sit back from a high vantage point as ground forces engage in a typically chaotic and most certainly brutal slaughter, but finding a specific target amidst the chaos of a battlefield with all the smoke, debris and horror can be a challenging task. Quite frankly, Imperial Guard and even Hastati snipers may not be up to the task. Vindicare, on the other hand, will be able to successfully eliminate Xenos commanders, or whatever their strange equivalent is, dangerously unstable psychers, or other critical targets. Perhaps even seemingly loyal commanders who are needed for whatever reason, according to the Inquisition, to fall in battle.
What the fuck? You're inspiring the men too well. The fall of Vraks?
Within the
Some Kriegers here, looks like.
Imperium, one Cardinal Zafan had found himself next in line to succeed as a member of the Ecclesiarchy's Holy Synod, the Imperial religion's ruling body. Zafan would embark upon a long pilgrimage to visit the many worlds he would soon oversee. His passionate sermons and charisma made for a popular figure throughout the Skara sector. However, quickly his presence gave rise to a fairly fanatical following, leading to a sizable entourage of preachers, deacons, menials, and even a personal bodyguard of Adeptus Sororitas.
Oh, of course.
Zafan was a fanatical devotee of the Ecclesiarchy, believing himself to be a true chosen figure, and this steadily became embedded in his mind, was certainly not at all helped by extreme fanatical cults like Redemptionists, who attached to his entourage, exclaiming that they believed him to be upon a crusade to purge the heretics. They believed he to be sent by the Emperor
Their
himself
ego flaming.
and could lead them all to glory.
Oh
no
no.
one's surprised it took very little for Zafan to be persuaded into launching a war of faith in the name of the Holy Emperor, but they were still rightfully fearful of raising any suspicions of the Inquisition, and so it was that Zafan decided to organize this holy war upon the secluded world of Vraks. And as Zafan himself was heard to exclaim, "The Skara sector is a tinderbox. One spark may soon become a great conflagration, and I shall light the fires."
Holy shit.
Although welcomed by fanatical swathes of followers on arriving at Vraks, Zafan retired.
I think I can
quickly
see
away
where
from
this is
masses.
going.
His appearances would become ever rarer.
This guy's a
and
problem.
fleeting. He needed to find a way to spark his war of
Vindicare
faith.
solve
He
problems.
simultaneously realized he would require far more men to achieve his holy quest than just his retinue. Although they themselves were not permitted to raise any kind of military force, in times past a cardinal had been known to raise a militia in order to protect himself, and this seemed to fall within the lines of acceptability, and so they decided they would begin spreading rumours within the workforce on Vraks that the planet would soon come under threat, and these rumours spread like a fire throughout the workers. It was said that heretics were already attacking nearby systems and that soon they would arrive on Vraks. Nearly overnight, the mood went from respectable unity to a furious witch hunt. Any who spoke out or sought to deny the ecclesiarch's claims were demonized and either dealt with on the spot or dragged down to the dungeons of Vraks. The cardinal had become the saviour of a whole world, and he now had a zealous, loyal following that he could command against any who threatened their ambitions. Soon enough, this would include the entire military forces of Vraks, with the exception of the Arbites. The penal labour forces of Vraks in their ragged clothing chained together, living lives of miserable existence. Zafan's preachers brought them hope that they could be redeemed if they joined his glorious crusade. Only redemption and forgiveness, or a lifetime of grinding physical servitude. Hardly a difficult choice, and it further ignited the feelings of rebellion.
So he really came in here at a perfect time when, you know, people were threatened by heretics. This guy is a representative of the faith, right? Directly. He's preaching he can save you, literally. And now he also just comes in to your penal camps and says, yeah, you know what? You can fight for redemption for me, or you can be a slave the rest of your life. You know what I mean? That's crazy. What a way to bolster forces. What a smart play by this guy. But yeah, he's definitely a fucking, definitely a problem. You know what I mean? I don't think he has the authority to necessarily be doing this. So let's see what happens.
Hardly a difficult choice, and it further ignited the feelings of rebellion. Such unbelievably outrageous plotting was unlikely to continue unnoticed for much longer, and it was shortly after this time that the Inquisition, the Ordo Hereticus, began to take notice of the happenings on Vraks. Many of Zafan's preachings were highly disturbing, and this was for the Hereticus, in fact, not something new or unusual. They'd seen this all before. Rogue cardinals who became a little too fanatical, strayed off the path of the light. This was so often how a fall into corruption took place. It was textbook. It seemed this was all too often a very worryingly thin line between the most passionate worship of the emperor and crossing over into becoming corrupted by the dark gods. These ecclesiarchy preachers, who became ever more extreme in their teachings, began to believe that they held the true power in their words, and that perhaps it was they, and not the emperor, who deserved to be worshipped. This is the insidious way by which chaos works. Although it can take place in plain sight, all too often it happens so subtly that even those who end up corrupted are actually still completely unaware that it has even taken place. Their thoughts and feelings shift so slightly and so gradually that they likely do not even see any change in themselves. It's only to those on the outside who will see their absolute downward spiral, and by then any thought of reasonable salvation is long since extinguished. And so this is where the Vindicare assassin enters the situation. Orders were assigned by the Inquisition that an assassin be deployed to eliminate Cardinal Zafan before things became even more disruptive and could not be solved by anything more than a total assault upon what were very quickly headed towards, if not already, full-fledged traitors to the Imperium. The assassin had lain in wait for many days, having infiltrated an Imperial citadel disguised as a pilgrim to visit relics of the ecclesiarchy. Taking a high position above the basilica, the Vindicare was able to see most of the grounds around, and he remained perched upon a narrow ledge, disguised by the Vindicare stealth suit, which rendered him not invisible but extremely difficult to spot unless you were specifically looking for them. He waited and waited. The moment would come, an instance where he could strike. He surveyed and memorized the moments and timings of the palace guard. He noted any unusual movements of preachers, visitors, the comings and goings. It was all mentally mapped out, so he knew the precise movements of all around him. A single shot rang out. A stone pillar exploded as a heavy penetrator round punched clean through the stone and straight into Cardinal Zafan.
Jesus.
Fortunately for the Vindicare, Zafan was wearing a Reservist, and these are far from decorative items. The Hastatis chaplains commonly wear these, and they gift their bearer with a powerful personal force field to prevent against exactly these kind of assassination attempts for high-ranking Imperial members. Although Vindicare are meant to have rounds which will overload these kind of personal force fields, something had gone wrong. Zafan's guards immediately surrounded him, but were instantly dead as more shots came. By now the floor was already a sea of blood, but the most important and cleanest shot had failed. The Vindicare knew the situation was already slipping away, and as he reloaded with lightning precision, he fell back into the narrow vent and was now in pitch darkness. His spy mask instantly compensated for this, giving him near daylight vision as he silently flew down the spiral staircase, which led up to this highest point of the citadel. The grounds below.
So that's, sorry, I just want to pause and talk about that real quick. Like, yeah, something clearly went wrong there. His round didn't work or something like that. Maybe he's got something else about him, but very, very, I mean, the rest of his guards fell instantly, right? So clearly it wasn't an issue on the Vindicare's part here. Like something else is going on here, right? Still very impressive. He was able to bring that shot off and it hit its target. It just not effective, unfortunately.
He flew down the spiral staircase, which led up to this highest point of the citadel. The grounds below by now were in a mad panic, as if having kicked apart an ant's nest. Pilgrims and guards were running around in apoplectic state of shock and disbelief. The assassin burst through an arched door at the bottom of the stairwell, and as he did so he came face to face with the young preacher, who stared in a stunned silence at the black-clad Imperial assassin. What was this thing before him? He had no time to think things through further, as he was instantly slaughtered by the Vindicare, firing his rifle from the hip at near point-blank range, exploding the chest of the preacher. The Vindicare dashed off to escape, but guards were swarming everywhere by now, and all doors in and out of the citadel were being sealed. Stealth was no longer an option, as the assassin shot the locks from doors and made any escape that could be found. The cumbersome large rifle was deactivated and discarded as evasion and escape became the absolute priority now. The Vindicare was now moving so fast as to be a blur to ordinary human vision. Guards made feeble attempts to fire shots at the escaping assassin. Many of them found themselves bleeding out from hastily targeted shots from the assassin's Exodus pistol. Despite his best efforts though, more and more potential escape routes were being locked down and guarded by squads of men. Eventually though, making an error in a flash of what may be described as an irrational panic, the Vindicare found himself heading down into the crypts of the Basilica, and there he found quite literally a dead end. Many guards were rushing down after, and although he could put up something of a fight, grenades were already being thrown down the stone stairs in saturation. Smoke and dust filled the room, no problem for the Vindicare's visor, and he killed more guards as they made a brave effort to rush down and kill the intruder, before finally the assassin was overwhelmed and pinned to the wall by fire from waves of defending guard. His shredded remains were dragged up to be paraded before the faithful. Now it's true that I might say this quite often, but this was a catastrophic failure. Not only had the assassin failed dismally in his assignment, but it had actually managed to make things considerably worse.
Yeah.
Zafan could easily now use this as proof of his...
But to be fair, that's how assassinations goes. That's the risk with it, right? If it succeeds, it succeeds. If it fails hard, right? You know, that's unfortunately nature of the beast there. Yeah, I wonder what was going on here with him. Like what, I don't really want to blame the Vindicare there, because again, he hit his shots. It's just, I don't know, misjudgment maybe.
Worse. Zafan could easily now use this as proof of his divinity, having survived an assassination attempt by the hand of the Emperor himself. It was a dismal and depressing conclusion. It was the final moments for any kind of order on Vraks. The fate of the world was sealed. Militia ran to arm themselves, looters plundered weapons and ammunition in vast quantities, and the Arbites made limited attempts to control the situation. They held out for some time, but were ultimately crushed under a weight of rampaging fanatics. The failure of the Vindicare had set in motion events that could no longer be stopped. Zafan would take control of Vraks. The Sororitas were imprisoned in the dungeons of Vraks, Administratum bastions were stormed. Civil war had consumed Vraks. None could escape, no loyalists would be spared. Cardinal Zafan was now in full control of Vraks. And likely, we can continue this story at a later time.
Damn. Vindicare wargear, okay.
Unsurprisingly, the core weapons of the Vindicare Temple Assassin are its Exitus marksman rifle and pistol, both of which are among the finest examples of Imperial weaponsmithing. They will be meticulously crafted by an artisan of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Each rifle is part of a matched set and will be customized to the precise specifications of the individual assassin. It is said that an Exitus rifle will never jam or fail in any way, for Exitus weapons, believe it or not, are said to actually contain sophisticated machine spirits of a sleek and murderous nature.
Oh
they
yeah.
are even an echo of the assassin who wields the weapon. If any piece of wargear must be dumped or discarded mid-operation, which should
The machine spirit, guys. The machine spirit.
They should be compelled
Fucking
to destroy the
Mechanicus.
hardware, as all assassins should leave no trace unless they specifically intended to do so. It certainly wouldn't be acceptable to allow an enemy to gain access and use any piece of an assassin's equipment. Exitus weapons
true.
use highly specialized ammunition constructed from heavy gravity alloys to penetrate nearly all forms of known protection. It is said even enough to punch through the ceramite plate as worn by Hastatis. Heretic Hastatis though, to be sure.
Yeah,
The
of
accompanying
course.
Exitus pistol is equally a masterpiece of craftsmanship. It's as elegant as it is deadly. In most situations it exists purely as a backup weapon for a Vindicare, and is primarily to be used in the rare circumstances, as we just heard about, where an assassin is discovered cornered or in need of rapid fire capability. Like many advanced Imperial weapons, the recoil from an Exitus pistol is such that only an assassin's enhanced musculature allows them to fire the weapon one-handed. Although likely Astartes could of course wield such a weapon, although it is hard to envision how that situation would come to pass.
Yeah.
The Exitus pistol has a built-in silencer to enable it to be suitably compact, and as with all Assassin's equipment, is among the highest quality weapons crafted by the artificers of the Imperium of Man, enabling any Vindicare to empty an entire clip of the pistol, scoring kill after kill before their enemy have even reached for their weapons. It
Jesus.
should also be no surprise that a long-range sniper unit like the Vindicare Assassin will carry a variety of specialist ammunition. All Exitus ammunition contains miniaturized targeting machine spirits which make each round fired by a Vindicare nearly impossible to avoid. Exitus rounds can even be programmed to then self-destruct and disintegrate. These
Holy
rounds
shit.
will be destroyed as if by a virus, leaving no trace behind. Vindicare are usually issued with their special ammunition only when being sent on an assignment, and it should perhaps be obvious that these rounds are extremely rare. Each single bullet is very difficult and time consuming for the Mechanicus to craft. Not exclusively, but very often, a Vindicare will only be given a single round of each type to complete a mission. The phrase one shot, one kill was certainly never truer than for the Vindicare. Their three core types of ammunition are firstly a shield breaker round, which as we described before is used by Vindicare assassins for bypassing high value target personal energy shielding such as a conversion field or a refractor field or the Reservist. The round overloads personal force fields and similar barriers with massive bursts of energy. The shield breaker is specially treated with a psychically charged imprint and contains a complex circuit of anti-phase technology that is little understood even by the tech priests of the Mechanicus. It's possible that it failed to kill Cardinal Zathan, having already had to break or interact with this stone pillar, and thus didn't have quite enough power to break the protective field of the Reservist. Alternately, it is possible that there was some kind of psychic interjection. Who can really say? But the shield breaker will be employed against a variety
Well, it just didn't
of
have enough
targets,
ass,
including
potentially.
protective warp fields generated by, say, a Tyranid Zoanthrope or an Eldar Warlock's rune armor, as well as the psychic shields often employed by powerful psychers. Hellfire rounds, as also earlier described, have devastating effects on organic matter. Although they can be used against human targets, more often they are usually specifically used against, say, Tyranids. This is because the core and tip of the standard Exitus round are replaced with a vial of virulent, mutagenic bioacid toxins. Thousands of armor-piercing microneedles inject the target with this acid upon impact, and the needles pierce the victim's flesh, pumping the acid deep into the target, eating away at both flesh, metal and chitin alike with truly horrific speed. Lastly, we come to what is described as a turbo penetrator or a hypervelocity round. These are adamantine-jacketed bullets surrounding a special magna-sealed flux needle. The purpose of this is to create a two-stage charge on impact to punch a diamond-hard secondary round through the thickest of armor. These special rounds are renowned for their ability to pierce nearly any armour, and the hypervelocity round wreaks havoc upon any target, often by the secondary effect of its phasing passage through the target's molecular structure.
You're getting collaterals with that one, dude. Holy shit.
Massive wargear of the Vindicare, including their stealth suit.
That goes through 10 people.
The Vindicare Temple
or 4 Astartes.
has a long-standing pact with the
I don't actually know.
To craft their exquisite stealth suits. Each one uses camellia-line laced materials with a complex version of what is known as sin skin to allow its wearer to blend in with the environment. This material also connects with an assassin's body, enhancing their reflexes and protecting them from toxins, gases, and other hazards on the battlefield. Each suit is supple and totally silent, allowing the assassin to move with perfect freedom while still retaining both its protective and chameleonic qualities. These suits also are often genetically coded for its user and cannot be reused, although honestly, why would you want to? Lastly, the Vindicare spy mask is yet another sophisticated piece of gear. It's highly individualized for the wearer, and each spy mask interfaces directly with an operative's brain via neural jacks located at their temples either side of the head. The mask will then directly feed its sensory data and predictive augurs into the Vindicare's mind. Trajectories, atmospherics, thermal imaging, psychic spore, all are superimposed upon an operative's field of vision. The mask allows a Vindicare to see through dense smoke and obscuring screens, and can even identify weak points in their victims' defences based upon probability scripture. The quantity of information is reportedly so high that it is believed it would disorientate even a veteran space marine, but thanks to a Vindicare's mental augmetics, they're able to process it with ease. Vindicare spy masks will also contain cartridges of highly concentrated food and water for extended operations, and a multi-channel sensor for monitoring any and all enemy communications. The mask includes a built-in Auspex scanner, advanced magnification capabilities, and a photo visor, making the wearer immune to the blinding effects of photon flash grenades. It also contains a rebreather for hostile environments and Voxcaster. As per their stealth suit, a Vindicare spy mask will also likely be gene-coded so that it can only be activated by a specific assassin, and most importantly, not be used by any enemy should they ever be in a situation to secure one.
It's very interesting that even like their suits and shit, their armor is made for the user, right? Like genetically coded to the user. It's just, it's all about asset denial with these guys. They don't want to leave any trace that they were even there, besides their body, of course, I guess, if they fail, right? That's the idea, which it's pretty smart, I have to say. You do not want your enemies getting their hands on any of this shit, because it could be extremely bad. Now, obviously, you need the training and obviously the genetic enhancements, whatever have you, right? But the equipment alone, yeah, you want people having that. That would be awful.
Not be used by
if even like an attempted reproduction could be made
to secure one. I will note that despite the lengthy description of the unforgivable failure of the Vindicare assassin upon the world of Vraks, it should be generally noted that spread across the millennia, occasions which have required the dispatch of an assassin and have subsequently not resulted in the desired result are extraordinarily few. It is with fair reason that the Imperial assassins are both known through their actions and also appear in a form that resembles death incarnate. As the Inquisition views things, the assassins of the Imperium are able to change the fate of worlds with the pull of a single trigger, especially on worlds where the length of the Emperor's reach needs to be made abundantly clear. The weapons of Imperial assassins range from simple knives and garrots to exotic neural shredders and phase swords that can cut through armor and force field alike. Even bare-handed, these operatives are lethal foes, each trained extensively in unarmed combat from their earliest inception. Upon making a return to the Temple Masters, they will be extensively debriefed and undergo a lengthy examination period before finally being given a new mark and mission to accomplish. Each serving assassin is locked into a constant cycle of hunting that will span the breadth of the Imperium until likely the day that they die. They exist to reforge the fragile threads of Imperial rule, even as the period of the late 41st millennium continues to tear them apart with an ever-increasing ferocity. In the next Assassins episode, we will learn about the recruitment and training process for assassins. If you couldn't already guess, it involves youths being whittled down by a harrowing process. It may well seem familiar.
Wow.
And then, as we learn about the arguably most traumatizing of assassins, the
Eversaurs. Yeah.
As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today, please remember to hit the like. Thank you for watching me here on the channel. Stay tuned, as I have other things coming up this week.
Awesome. Fear me, for I am your apocalypse. Modus Executus again there. Luetin 09. All right. Nice. Do you think that is the end there, guys? That was awesome, I have to say. That was Imperial Assassins Origins and Vindicare Snipers 40k Warhammer 40k lore/history, uploaded of course by Luetin 09, guys. Yes, it was actually very interesting there to learn a lot of I guess pre-lore that I never well, shit, I mean, so many rebellions I never knew that actually took place there. A direct cause, of course, was the leader of the Assassinatorium, right? The master of the Assassinatorium. It's just crazy to know that they were the root cause of so much just like turmoil, I guess, in the Imperium. But again, knowing their foundation and where, I guess, their leadership lied initially, right? Like who their loyalty lied to initially, and then after that's removed, it's very easy to see how that position could become corruptible. And now it's like the ecclesiarchy is in charge of them, which obviously is another very corruptible branch of the Imperium administration, I guess, if you want to call it that, right? So yeah, no, I thought this was a great video. Luetin obviously does a great job on these lore videos. That was awesome to check out. Big thank you to Andrew, of course, for that recommendation. As always, do appreciate that, man. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this reaction, as always, hit that like button, subscribe for more content from me, and of course, leave your recommendations down in the comments below, guys. I do appreciate that a lot. Join our Discord if you're not already in it. And yeah, without any further delay, guys, yeah, this has been Centurion, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.